Hello.
Hi.
This is episode 4 of our podcast.
That's 4 episodes that no one's watched.
Yeah, true. But that's just how it is. It's whatever. But whatever. We're doing this for fun. Today, obviously, the big topic in Formula One news was Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari. So we were going to be talking about essentially the ramifications of just that one move and how that's going to cause a ripple effect throughout the grid. And we're just going to talk about it. So without further ado.
And how it's caused the early silly season, like when Vettel left, retired from Aston Martin.
Yeah.
And everyone went on them.
So compare that to this. Vettel did that in the season. Silly season's usually like the middle of the year. Last year, nothing happened. Last year was one of the most boring in terms of driver rotation things. Everyone was locked into multi-year contracts and no one moved. No one changed really. The only real change was the Visa Cash App. Yeah, the Visa Cash App Red Bulls or Racing Bulls or whatever they want to call themselves. RB. Oh, God. Yeah.
Visa Cash App RB.
I'm just going to say Racing Bulls for the rest of the year.
I'm going to call them AlphaTauri.
Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri. Red Bull's second team. Yeah, the Red Bull junior team. That's the only team that's really had any kind of changing happen. And it was pretty much figured out during the season last year. So no silly season last year. And it's already begun this year with Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari in 2025.
Yeah, now I have some very strong feelings about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think that it's about time Mercedes grew a set and said to him, great, you're on gardening leave for the next 12 months. Because, let me logic. He is going to see what they're doing with their engines for 26. They're working on them. They'll be putting them in test beds and testing them. There'll be also, I know that theoretically they're not supposed to develop the cars until January 25, but they'll be talking ideas. He will be, even if he's not in the direct conversation, he'll be hearing tidbits, which he can tell Ferrari.
Yeah.
And for that reason alone, and plus it will save them some money because they won't be paying him his bonuses because he's on gardening leave. Because he's not racing.
Yeah, his incentives.
Yeah, all his incentives will go away. Plus, they can test one of their new drivers or give Mick a chance and go through a series of drivers this season to see what they want for 25 and onwards.
So, I mean, the future is clear that it's going to be George Russell's team with question mark as a teammate. I think you're not wrong, but I don't think they'll ever do it purely because Lewis Hamilton brings a lot of notoriety to their team. But let's talk about the contract for a second. Lewis wanted a multi-year contract with an ambassador role for the team. He did not get that. He got a 1-year no ambassador thing from Mercedes. And then the rumors or the speculation is he got a 3-year plus ambassador role for Ferrari. And how do you not take that as a person that's pretty much at the end of the career? Definitely as, every great driver has pretty much touched Ferrari in some facet. He wants to do it while he's still racing.
Yes, and for me, I don't blame him for going.
Nope.
The car they've designed for the last 2 years, in all honesty, the first year was really bad because of all the porpoising. Last year, they still came second in the championship, so
barely last race.
Yeah, they just couldn't get near Red Bull. And
no one could.
Say the last race. Did he really put his heart into that last race?
No, not really, because I mean, Ferrari got screwed by Vegas. Let's be real. Ferrari had a good car for Vegas, and then Sainz getting those penalties really hurt their team.
Yeah. And it wasn't nothing to do with him either.
No, you can blame America on that one. But I think it's also Lewis's mentality that we got second place because of me. And you look at the point difference last year between him and George, and it was quite substantial. You look at the Ferrari point difference; it's very close.
Oh, 4 points, 4 or 5 points between.
So he is one of the greatest drivers ever to touch the sport, and his confidence is probably saying, if I leave Mercedes, they'll never be where they are right now. That's probably his. I don't want to think for him. That's probably not as nefarious as he's actually thinking, but there's a part of it where he probably is going, look, I want that 8th world title. This team's not getting me there. And they're starting to give me the Bottas treatment for 1-year contracts. I'm done. I'm not doing that.
Well, they didn't give him they gave him a 1-year contract with an option for him for a further year for him, and he just went, nah.
Well, again, you get a 1+1 deal essentially, right?
Yeah.
Or you get a 3+ ambassador for Ferrari.
Well, plus, okay, and you also have to remember.
Plus, you get to, you get all these Italian gorgeous women throwing themselves at you because you're wearing red. Not a bad deal. No, he's not. No, he's not. He dresses like he is, but that's just because he actually has friends in fashion. But no, I think it's for Lewis, it's, the team Mercedes hasn't been on form, although they got second place by scraping it last year. I think moving to Ferrari at the end of his career, essentially, not a bad idea.
And well, they got third in the Drivers' Championship for him and second for Mercedes. And yes, they went off performance, but did they go off performance, or did Lewis take his foot off the gas a little bit in the last few races because he already knew where he was going?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Lewis had any idea this was going to happen until the past few months after the season.
I don't know, because they were giving Sainz a hard time.
Well, they were giving Sainz a hard time because Ferrari was clearly working on this, right? Sainz is not a bad driver by any means. Everyone's going to say he's good person for Ferrari to keep, but at the same time, their product is Leclerc. They want to have Leclerc be their prodigy child. Can he get better with someone like Sainz, or is he going to get better with someone like Lewis Hamilton? I would say Lewis Hamilton's going to push him further than Sainz ever would.
I've got this is my honest opinion. I think at least in the first year, and possibly the second year, he is going to decimate Hamilton. Charles is fast.
Charles is fast. Don't get it wrong, and he's going to be comfortable with the team and whatnot. But Lewis isn't slow. It's going to be a totally different environment for Lewis, though.
Yeah, and what you also got to remember is, for Lewis, he might not these days might not be the fastest in qualifying spec, but race-wise, he is always fast. Yeah,
and he's got that track knowledge of where we're in the race, knowing when to ask his engineer, hey, like.
And he knows how to look after his tires. Well.
Tires. He's a championship caliber driver, clearly. And I think Ferrari. I think if you look at it from Ferrari's perspective, it's not a bad move. It sucks for Sainz because he's done very well for them, but they want to take it to the next level. They recognize that they have to do extreme things to try and compete with Red Bull. So you bring the one guy that gave Max the hardest challenge in the past few years, and you see what happens. I don't think it's a bad move by Ferrari at all.
No, Ferrari I have no problem with.
It sucks that Sainz had to be the rough end of this because he's definitely proved himself as a top caliber driver.
Yeah, and there's not many. Well, there's now a space at Mercedes, obviously, and you've also got to look at Alonso. His contract's up at the end of this year.
Yep.
Now, because of his actions with Honda, I know this is a Formula 2 car engine,
GP2 engine, yeah.
GP2 engine. I don't think Honda's going to have him on board for 26. They refuse to let him have an IndyCar engine.
A bit of context to that is obviously for the past few years, Aston Martin has been using Mercedes engines. They are switching to Honda. Is it 2025 or 2026?
26.
So Honda is essentially going from Red Bull to Aston Martin, and Alonso knows that that's a time bomb for him waiting to happen, because as soon as they're part of the team, integral part of the team, which I would say is going to start in 2025 with the development stuff going on, they don't like him. There's a beef with them in the past, and he's old, so he's got all those things working against him. Alonso right now is probably going, where can I go? Where can I go? Where can I go? Obviously, the quickest rumor to come out after Lewis Hamilton announced for Ferrari is that I don't know if Alonso contacted Mercedes or Toto contacted Alonso or whatever, but he has been reached out to, at least for conversations.
Yeah, but these guys,
that's the business, yeah.
Their agents are always talking to
everybody. Yeah, exactly.
If you think about it, Toto has got the perfect excuse: team manager and agent. So he can talk to drivers who up and down the grid because looking for work.
Yep.
Or he could be talking to drivers to get them into Mercedes.
Right. So,
but the other thing we were talking about Mercedes, so we can go off Hamilton for good.
Well, yeah.
Mercedes have done so much at Hamilton's request. They had the diversity program for people in England, so for jobs and so forth, helping minorities, etc. They did that purely for Hamilton. They don't do it in Germany.
I would say they also probably did that knowing that, not saying it's bad or anything, but it's good politics.
Good politics. But why wouldn't they do it in other countries in the world?
Well, he's British. It's that simple.
They're German.
Yeah, but Lewis Hamilton isn't German.
No.
So he can't walk around Germany speaking broken German, saying, "Come on, let's champion this cause." They're gonna hear a British guy and they're gonna go, "Shut up, don't talk to us." Now, if Mick Schumacher is the ambassador, of course there's gonna be stuff going on in Germany with Mercedes as a brand. But again, that's just hope. That's me wanting a Schumacher in a good car, hope and praying that it happens. But again, Mercedes as a whole is either going to rebuild with young talent, going to lean on George Russell and a veteran like Alonso, maybe even Sainz, possibly.
If you look at, to give George Russell his due, he would not be fazed by having Alonso there or anyone there.
No.
Racing next to Hamilton didn't faze him.
I think that was the biggest, the best thing for George going from Williams to Mercedes was, can he compete with Lewis Hamilton? Because the bar is really high. And his first year there, he beat him. That said, the car was crap. And he was used to driving crap cars. But it shows that George was of a higher caliber than an average driver in the grid.
And I think in the second year, because they wanted to make sure Lewis was happy and content, they did the development the way he was happy with.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much towards George's taking.
And what this does for George is, hey, team's now yours, essentially. Like, even if they bring in Alonso, team is going to be George's team. Long term, which is exactly what George Russell wanted, I think. And I think that's good for Mercedes because George Russell has proven that he's a high-level driver. Who's going to be his partner? Is he going to get a Mick Schumacher who's going to essentially play his Bottas role? Or are they going to bring in an Alonso for short-term results?
Well, the thing is, with whatever driver any team wants, in the modern era, what a driver has to be able to do is learn tyre management.
Yeah.
you see that between the two McLaren guys. One lap pace, they're both the same.
Mm-hmm.
Race pace, they're not, because Lando looks after his tyres better. He has learned how to do that.
Yep.
George can learn some of that from Alonso.
You'd hope he already has the knowledge, because you're talking Lando versus Oscar. George and Lando are essentially the same level of experience. So George should already have that under his belt. So any learning from another driver should be out the door at this point.
And because even Hamilton learned tyre management from Button.
Yeah.
Because he used to burn his tyres.
Trying to keep up. And then he found out,
just being so aggressive. Then he learned.
Oh, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Marathon, it's not a sprint. Smooth driving is the way to go, because you keep up, and then at periods you put a bit more pressure on.
Yeah, hammer time.
And so that he learned a lot from Button. So I think Charles will learn that from. I'm not saying he doesn't do it now, but he'll learn better.
Again, so Charles with Lewis he's going to improve. He's going to learn a lot of things that he didn't know about. Whereas George getting Alonso, I don't feel like it's going to be the same situation. It's going to be more so who's going to be the alpha. So Mercedes might want to just steer away from Alonso, knowing that he's always been not necessarily toxic for his teammates, but top dog, wanting everything from the team.
Yeah. He's done that in every team, and that's why he ran foul at McLaren.
Yep.
And that first one and only year there with Lewis, when he was there then, he came in as number one and expected to be top dog, and McLaren went,
well, no, this guy's pretty good too. Yeah.
His performance. Well, they hadn't raced it then. So you can imagine you come in as a number one and
then a rookie.
You think, I'm going to beat him easy.
Yeah.
And they ended the season level on points.
Yep, exactly, level on points.
Yeah, so the Bottas and Zhou contracts are up this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think Alonso's... So those are where the area is going to move, because hopefully
Perez,
when Audi comes in, it's going to bring in more technology.
Well, let's just break it down before we get into the team. Let's break it down to who's up for renewed contracts. So let's start with Red Bull. Checo's up for a renewal.
Checo's up for renewal.
Sainz, there's a second seat at Mercedes now. That's 3 spots that are up for contention.
No, there's only 2. So Red Bull, that's 1 seat.
1. Sainz,
that's 1 seat. Sainz has not got a seat yet.
He'll get a seat. No, I'm saying like they're okay. Yeah, you're right too. But then you've got the Stake F1 team, which their livery reveal happened the other day, and I thought it looked pretty cool. But essentially, it's green on top of the carbon fiber, and we could talk about that forever. But it looked cool. But their contracts are expired, and I wouldn't exactly say Bottas has secured it for the future.
No, because I'd get rid of him for that mullet on alone.
Couldn't care less about the haircut. If anything, it's generated more popularity for the team. What I think is the problem is the level of seriousness is essentially gone. It's like put your feet back up and kick back, and that you don't want that kind of team running. But again, so those 2 guys have contract years. Let's see who else. Logan Sargent and the Williams, they're up for Albon leaving and Sargent.
Albon, I thought Albon was the end of 25.
Yeah, but
he had an option on him.
You don't think he'll take a Mercedes seat if it's offered to him?
Well, if they've got a contract on him, it's going to cost Mercedes to get the option.
That doesn't matter. They'll grab him because that's a good option for him. George and Albon get along. I mean, I don't think they're best friends, but they get along, and they're both at this youthful part of their careers where they could really boom. And so that's a good option for them. So Williams is going to possibly have a whole new lineup next year. Who am I missing? McLaren's pretty much solidified. Alpine is...
They're good for end of 25.
They're good for 25 contractually. I remember Ocon had that crazy 5-year contract. Gasly, multi-year. I think Alpine is too desperate to just sit back and let that happen. If they go, Ocon's not bringing it, screw him.
Well, in my opinion, Ocon is, you say Alonso's toxic. And
Ocon's
toxic in another way.
Yeah.
He is just totally toxic to it. I've got to beat my teammate
at any cost,
regardless of the team.
Yeah.
And how it affects the team.
Yeah.
So I think once they gave him that long contract, he became the utter
pain
in the backside.
Pain, yeah.
Yeah. As he was at Racing Point when he was racing against Checo.
Well, he lost his seat for a year, and no one really went, why was that? He was a good driver. Why was that? It's because he was hard to work with.
Yeah.
He's expensive. A crashing driver is an expensive driver.
And especially when he's crashing your teammate, because it makes double the problem.
Yep. And so I think Alpine could do essentially a McLaren say, we couldn't care less what the contracts say. We're going to throw the money at the problem. I think those seats are going to, silly seasons around the corner, and they're going to see all these teams doing all these big moves. You think they're really going to want to sit back and go, yeah, you know what? We've got it figured out. Their drivers don't get along. Their car isn't doing well enough.
I think they'll keep Gasly because
Gasly's brought it. I think Gasly's done quite well.
Yeah. And
he's French.
For a team where he was not he was the newbie. The car was in its second year in the new format.
Yep.
So Ocon should have had all the advantages.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't perform.
Yeah. I think Gasly actually had a pretty good season. The best showcase of that was Australia, where he was essentially out of position from where they were predicted and putting up a fight, you know?
Well, I'll predict now that when Ocon's contract does expire, he won't get another.
I think he'll be done with F1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Then you've got AlphaTauri. Both their drivers are on 1-year contracts.
Yep. Proving year for both of them. I think Yuki's essentially stalling out until, I think, bold prediction here, Yuki goes to Aston Martin.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Such a bold take there. No, he's going to follow. He'll follow Honda.
Yeah, and because he is a Honda driver.
Exactly. So I think Yuki's not a bad driver. He's very aggressive, and honestly, last year we saw flashes of greatness and putting himself so far ahead of his many teammates and getting points with one of the worst cars. I think Yuki has proved that he's high caliber and he'll get an upgraded seat. But yeah, AlphaTauri, Racing Bulls, Toro Rosso, Visa, Cash App. Their seats are up, so it's going to be a crazy year. A lot of drivers having to prove themselves.
In the Racing Bull family, there's 3 seats available.
Right.
I also think
the Racing Bull family, the Red Bull family.
That's a Red Bull family. I also think it'll be the last year for Ricciardo.
We'll see. I think again he has a proving year. Sainz has to prove himself this year. Okay, here's my predictions. Let's get them out of the way. Sainz.
Let's go to the rest of the teams first.
Well, what other teams are there?
Well, there's Haas.
Oh, Haas. They won't be able to. Bold prediction: they won't be able to afford being in F1 for 5 more years.
Oh, they're making money out of it. Just not very much. You get prize money even if you come last.
It sucks that Andretti wants so badly to come into the sport, and they have this pedigree of history in America where they've earned it, and F1 just goes no. 10 teams, evenly split pot. We like that number better. And then you look at Haas as like, we spend the least amount of money possible to the
Make sure we get a
the
few million
argument
profit every year.
the argument was Andretti will use F1 to promote themselves, and it will be Andretti gets more out of F1 than Andretti. You know, essentially, they're saying you're gonna leech off of our popularity. You're saying Haas isn't doing that. You're saying all these new like stake F1, the essentially a gambling website F1 is not getting that kind of situation. It was such a bad argument. Whatever lawyer came up with that was like
and you won't be able to develop 2 cars in 2 seasons. They've got Cadillac backing them.
They've got Cadillac backing them. They've got IndyCar, which is pretty much standardized car format, and then NASCAR. I think they have teams in that. A little
I'm
bit
not
of
sure if they're doing it, but they have got Formula E teams.
Formula E, which is pretty standardized as well.
But it's also
it's like so.
Ground effects and they've got racing knowledge.
Yeah, they have racing knowledge, but you're also saying that other teams like Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, they can't do it. Oh wait, they do it.
Well, the thing being is, the same argument could have been used. Then why the hell did you let Hassan in the first place?
Yeah. Who uses IndyCar engineers to design their car?
Yeah, but in fact, they don't even design the car themselves.
It's so backwards thinking. I think that we're going off topic, but
yeah,
Haas has got drivers.
Just to finish on the topic before we leave that bit. Andretti has already got more engineers than Haas.
Yeah. But apparently 2028 or some 2026, 2028.
They'll find another excuse. They've got to let them in sooner for Cadillac to say, we will develop the engine then.
They've got to pretty much come as a Cadillac Andretti, not Andretti. And then at that point, it's like, okay, yeah, you're right.
Because why would Cadillac develop an engine and then them say, no, we're not going to have you?
But okay, off topic. That I feel like that's whenever Haas is brought up, that's exactly where the conversation goes now, and that's F1's problem to deal with. Those driver positions are also open, so yeah, we are going to have one of the silliest seasons going. Now,
well, my prediction.
I was about to say, let's do our predictions.
My prediction. Red Bull.
Mm-hmm.
Red Bull will have Max, obviously. And apparently Max still likes Checo. So Checo might be given, I think, 1 more year. As long as he keeps his... If it's not, they'll replace him during the season.
All right, keep going.
So that's Red Bull. Mercedes. I really think Alonso will go to Mercedes.
Okay.
I would like to see the opposite. I'd like Mercedes to say, well, we can play around with 2 drivers. We're going to try Mick and we're going to try one of the newbies in that seat to see if we've got an upcoming star.
Mm-hmm.
26. We know we're not going to win anything until 26. The new lot. Let's play around and get our ducks in a row. So, but I think they'll go the safe route. They'll go Alonso.
2 teams. Ferrari's obviously solidified itself. You don't have to talk about them.
Ferrari's solidified with Charles and Lewis. Then we've got Mercedes, McLaren. They're already solidified. They've given contracts to their guys for a while. And it makes you think that everyone knew about this Hamilton move, or suspected, because they tied down all the good drivers in long-term contracts.
Yeah, I think the rumors were going around last year about Hamilton Ferrari throughout the season.
And so McLaren is no change. Then we've got, I think, 24 Stroll will still be there. 25 he'll be out. So you'll have Sainz and Yuki in 25.
Okay.
Alpine. I think Albon will go to Alpine. 25. Ocon's out. And we will get we're still with Gasly.
Okay.
AlphaTauri will have Ian Lawson. No.
Liam
Lawson. Lawson.
Liam Lawson.
Liam Lawson. He'll be in the AlphaTauri. And they might give Daniel a further year.
Oh wow, contradicting yourself already because you said he wasn't going to last. But okay,
I don't think they'll last, but I think they're getting good advertising. It's commercial.
Yep.
They get good advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got the last two teams are
Stake F1.
Stake F1. They are going to keep Zhao, but they're going to bring in one driver. Now they might try and get Carlos in, or again Albon. They might go that direction.
Or they get
a newbie.
Top tier newbie. I think that's what's going to happen because they're a feeder team for Ferrari.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Well, okay, sure.
And then we've got Haas.
Haas and Williams.
Haas and Williams. Williams. I think Sargent's going to prove himself this year. And they'll bring in one of the Mercedes rookie drivers.
Okay.
Like they did with George.
Yeah.
So they'll put one of their rookie drivers in there to get him leveled up to come into the big team. And then Haas. I'm thinking maybe Hulkenberg will go to
Audi.
Stake, yeah, Audi. Magnussen, they're going to be stuck with because nobody else and no one else will want to drive for him. He just does it for the money, I think. Not big money, but I'd like it.
I mean, both the Haas drivers lost their seats at some point. And so I think you're right. Magnussen will stick around because they need a leader, and then they'll bring in someone young.
One of the Ferrari,
Drugovich or whatever.
Yeah, they'll take one of the Ferrari
young
drivers because Ferrari will pay him.
Okay.
Pay them money.
All right, fair enough. My prediction, a bit more bold. And sorry to Mexico for this, but Red Bull is going to replace Checo with Sainz.
Yes.
Ferrari obviously is solidified. Mercedes, my prediction is Albon goes to Mercedes. Okay. Joins Russell. So that's 3. McLaren's already filled up. 4. Aston Martin, Yuki, and Stroll for as long as the Strolls are around.
I'll only say one thing on that. I think Daddy Stroll will be around because he's selling Aston Martin cars as well.
Well, no, I think his son will stay in the sport as long as Lawrence.
Lance isn't interested. A little lost interest.
Hard to lose interest in a sport that you can only try out once. But okay, I'm still going. So I think Lance will stick around as long as his dad's there. Give him money. So that's 5, 6 being Alpine. Alpine, I have no idea. I don't know if they get a young guy to replace one of their drivers, if they just stick it out because they're both French. I think they're a big question mark team in general, without much confidence in their car upgrades. So I have no idea what Alpine's going to do. 7, Stake F1. They're priming to get ready for Audi. This is such an in-between year for them. They couldn't care less what happens this year. I think they're going to go German, with Zhao sticking around for, again, one more year. Marketing. Chinese marketing.
Who's the German?
Could be Hulkenberg. I don't think it... could be Mick or Hulkenberg. Or, again, someone else. A young... I think those seats will be open for because they want improvement and they want someone like a Leclerc, a Norris, a Oscar, where it's a young person that they can get for a long stretch. That could happen, but they could also just go safe and get either Hulkenberg or Mick, just to get that German backing going. Williams, I think you're right. I think Logan Sargent is going to have a proving year. I think Albon is essentially what's going to happen with Leclerc. To he's going to get this guy with much more experience to push him, and that's been Albon versus Sargent. I think Sargent had flashes of greatness, and then he had to battle essentially depression. Having as an athlete your ego plummet and then trying to get results during that is really tough, and he was able to scrape by. I mean, he's got to clean it up a lot. He's got to make sure he gets more results, but I think Williams as a team in general is looking good, so I think he'll have a good proving year this year, hopefully. And then, like you said, Mercedes Youth Academy driver, an F2 champion, something along those lines. Haas, same situation. Magnussen sticks around. I think Hulkenberg really embarrassed Magnussen last year.
Yeah, it certainly did.
And so I think Hulkenberg will actually be able to get out of Haas. Magnussen will never be able to leave Haas ever again. His last years will be in Haas, and then I think with the desperation of Gene Haas and the firing of Gunther Steiner, they're going to reach for the stars and get someone young.
But I think they'll get someone young from the Academy of Ferrari.
Yeah, exactly.
And because they're so tight-fisted, they'll get Ferrari to pay for it.
We've had a showcase of last year was a good example of new rookies with Oscar Piastri just crushing it. Sargent getting by, not doing terrible, but hanging in there. His qualifying looked good. And then the Dutch guy, Nick de Vries, where he was just so bad that he had to get kicked out early. I think we're going to see another iteration of that with young guys, but 2 or 3 seats where a young guy fills in, available. And I skipped the Visa Cash App Red Bull Racing Bull Toro Rossos. I think Ricardo will stick around for marketing, and Liam Lawson proved himself well enough to get that seat.
Yeah, I think they owe it to him for what he did.
Yeah.
Not that anyone's owed anything. Just one other thing on that. Hulkenberg came in, Cardi didn't know, and just walked the floor with Magnussen.
Yeah.
In qualifying,
crazy results of qualifying, but then obviously the race pace for the car, not the driver, the car is just so tires. Bad. Yeah, exactly.
His tires.
Yeah.
And but again, Hulkenberg's getting on relative.
Yeah.
I say getting on, but he's in his mid to late 30s now. I think he's about 37.
Yeah.
So he's not a young driver anymore.
Mm. So, but again, German experience. It's all about racing in general. It used to, like NASCAR. I had a conversation at work with a bunch of guys because I'm in North Carolina, which is close to the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and so NASCAR's and the Hall of Fame is here. So NASCAR love is here, and the knowledge here is it used to be the good old boys, the cowboys driving real fast, and then during the 90s, 2000s, it became which driver can bring more money to the team. And Formula One is exactly like that. Which driver can bring money? And so I snub Checo, but I think he'll stick around in the sport as well because he brings so much advertising money.
Oh, yeah.
And that might be even the argument where he sticks around F1 or Red Bull because he brings so much advertising money.
Because he's sponsored by the legally richest person in Mexico. I say legally because
That's a good way of
you've got
putting
all
it.
the
Yeah, the cartels. Yeah.
all the cartels, so there might be something else there.
Telecomundo or what?
Yeah,
Telemundo.
Telemundo, and they back him with a lot of money.
Oh yeah,
Always have done.
and he's not a bad driver. It's
No,
just Red Bull right now is on top, and they want to stay there, and they need someone to push Max.
I remember when he went to McLaren from Sauber after Hamilton left,
Yep, he had a bad
and
year.
he gave Button a hard time because one, he didn't young driver trying to prove himself. Button's going, well, we're going to get third and fourth here. We ain't going to get any better. There's no point in
Racing each
pushing the
other.
cars,
Yep.
racing. But he'd try and get past Button so he could be the third and not the fourth.
Yep.
And he had to be, and that lost him the place because he was too reckless.
Yeah.
And then he went, but McLaren did get him the spot at Racing Point.
Mm-hmm. He survived. He's been in the sport such a long time. People forget. So I think Checo and Sainz might not stay on their team. Well, Sainz definitely isn't staying on his team, but Checo probably lost his spot, but he's not out of the sport. Whereas someone like Ocon is in a solidified contract, but don't think he's on a proving year.
Yeah, I think Checo will be safe at Red Bull purely because
Max likes him.
Max actually likes him. They sorted out the differences now, and he is never going to threaten Max, which is that's why Hamilton liked Bottas.
Yeah, but people like
But he's got to up his pace. He has to up his pace.
He has to do better than he did last year. Even though he was a second place driver, he barely got the second place driver in probably the most the most dominant car. He barely got second.
He has to race like he did in the first 4 races.
He has to. He has to. He doesn't. His racing is fine. He just needs to qualify better.
Yeah,
and that's all. That's all simulation and obsession.
But it's got to be a bummer when.
Well, he's got to stop competing. You
start first, and Max starts 9th in Miami, and with 15 laps to go, Max goes way past him.
I think Checo needs to stop comparing himself to Max, because Max is just so good that he's one of those drivers that just ekes performance out of a car. He's the Jim Clark of his time, where he will just get more, or Lewis Hamilton. He will get more performance than you, and it's going to demoralize you. And if you go into his mentality last year was, I'm going to take it to Max. And then when he couldn't follow up with his own goal of being able to do that, his improvement, or it's essentially what Sargent happened. His ego was down and it broke him, and he had to fight through it to get through the season. If he just goes into the mentality of, I'm going to embarrass every other team, screw the whole, my biggest rival is my teammate, screw that. I don't care about trying to beat Max this year. I want to embarrass every other team, 1-2s every single race. Then he'll do better.
I'm not saying this is an excusable thing, but he didn't improve until Marco made the racist comment about him. And he did improve after that.
It's funny because, again, you just go back into mentality. He went from I need to beat Max, depression going down. Marco's racist. He's like, what the fuck you say?
Yeah.
And then it was like his focus wasn't anymore about I have to beat Max. Holy crap, I want the world championship. To what the fuck did this Austrian guy just say? This Austrian, yeah, exactly. What the hell was that? And like his entire focus on Max and his obsession with wanting to be a world champion was, who the fuck is this guy? Let's make that guy look like a dumbass, and then boom, he did well.
Can you imagine the Mercedes board when they heard about Hamilton leaving, it'd be "Gott in Himmel, Toto! What doest thou?"
Yeah. I think Germans are so liberal nowadays that I don't know what their end goal will be. Are they gonna go full blown Mick Schumacher, German white guy, or are they gonna want to try to keep the diversity thing going? I have no idea. It would be a bad look though. It would be a really bad look though if all of a sudden they went from probably the team that promotes diversity, LGBT, all that stuff to essentially Red Bull and just quiet about it. You know, we are here for racing and nothing else.
Well, Red Bull has black mechanics. They have one at least.
A black mechanic.
They have women in their
pit.
on the pit wall and stuff like that. But
it's a male dominated sport.
What they do is they instead of saying we have to be diverse, they pick the best they can get.
That's the biggest thing going. The whole push for the push for diversity, I get it. It's morally good, but the best thing to prove it is Formula One and the sheer competitiveness of it. It doesn't matter if you're black, brown, Asian, white, female. Doesn't matter. They only care about the times. They only care about the results. If you are an LGBT, purple dyed, one-limbed, amputated trans person, and you're lapping Lewis Hamilton,
they'll play you.
You are in. You know, you're it. You get to drive.
But the other thing you could turn around and say, oh, let's take the NFL or the basketball or baseball,
NBA,
and go,
yeah,
NBA,
MLB.
We're gonna pick the teams, and it must be a percentage of the population to show complete ethnic diversity. So you end up with a little 5'6" white guy playing basketball. You know,
it's the dumbest thing. Yeah, it's the dumbest thing going. You're gonna get the best athletes, and NBA's been like, look, this Eastern European guy that's 7 foot whatever is good at basketball. That's the reason he's playing. Yeah. LeBron James is good at basketball. That's why he's 40-year-old and playing.
And he's still playing.
Yeah. Sports is all about how good you are. Yeah.
Yeah, and that should apply for motor racing as well.
It is. What I'm saying is they champion it off the grid. You know, Vettel was very much I'm wearing a rainbow in the Middle East. Whatever. But, you know, championing those causes, Vettel is very much for pushing clean energy by riding a bicycle. Is Mercedes going to all of a sudden...
Then using a car for an hour and a half, which uses 100 kilos of fuel.
Yes. Because it's half battery operated. And it's no longer a V12. It is a V6. It is a bit hypocritical, but he was going there to push thoughts that can be expanded upon outside of Formula One. Is Mercedes going to go, well, our ambassador is no longer Lewis Hamilton. We are just going to improve our car design and we will make Uber Maschinen. And are they going to go away from them championing causes and just focus on racing like Red Bull does? I think so.
Like Ferrari does, like all of them do.
Honestly, well, I think Ferrari is just Italian.
Yeah.
they're just, you know, oh yeah, we support that. Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Here's our logo, and we're red.
Yeah. So I don't think they'll drop it immediately, but I think it will reduce over a period of time.
Yeah. I that's the whole thing. Lewis is a brand ambassador. I think it's going to follow Lewis.
Yeah. We'll be having a pink Mercedes.
No,
sorry. A pink Ferrari.
Never. And also, it would be also, first of all, it would be a black Ferrari, not a pink Ferrari. Which, if you think about like when they get to do special liveries, a very black and red Ferrari wouldn't look. It would look pretty cool if done right. That said, you think about the Stake F1. What were they called last year? Alfa Romeo? Probably not. They tried the black and red look. Did not look good. So we'll see.
Although,
what this also means that they're gonna go back to the silver bullets.
I think they will, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do it this year as well.
They haven't. Their livery reveal is it's weird. There's been I think this came from Matt and Tommy F1. The livery reveal will be predicting. No. We'll be predicting the team placement by the end of the year. So Haas went first, followed by I think Williams, Stake F1. McLaren did also do theirs pretty early.
They did just the skip, but they didn't reveal the car.
So, you're right. So car reveal might have been what they were talking about. And it was like Red Bull's the last to do it, then McLaren, then Mercedes, then Ferrari. And it was like, interesting. Interesting how it's the lower end of the grid teams doing all their stuff early.
Well, and we're waiting for copy any possible design features.
I wonder why that is.
They're all going to look at the Red Bull and go, "Oh crap, we could have done that, but we've only got a week now to
from testing."
Get it ready.
Yeah. Is that to deal with just where they ended up in the year, or they just decide those dates on their own?
I think they put their own dates up, but you never know. It could be something to do with the F1 guys as well.
Like the pit lane situation where. Okay, you guys are last. You get the most time to figure out your. Yeah. You have to, because we want to bring everyone's excitement up for the season. You're the last place team. Show your car at this point. Williams, you're next. Stake F1, you're next, and just going down the list. It makes sense.
That actually was detrimental to Red Bull at Zandvoort.
What do you mean? Oh, the pit wall. The pit lane.
When we had the rain.
That is one of the biggest drawbacks of Zandvoort. The pit lane is tiny.
No, I don't mean that. Do you remember they were all having to go in for rain tires or change the tires? And Red Bull reckoned that they couldn't get Max in.
I thought it was Checo.
No, Checo went in. Max was delayed a lap. Because he would have been caught with all the cars flashing past.
Oh, I see. So, he would have been traffic blocked.
And Checo went in because he was back near the end. And he came out and he was number one. And Max is going,
what the hell?
I'm sixth place now,
Don't worry, Max. God is throwing weather at us today. So this will not be That was such a crazy race. Such a crazy race. I loved it, though. Max loved it too.
It made it interesting.
Mm-hmm. Even though, and that's when Max won 10 in a row, right?
Yeah.
Was it Zandvoort?
No. He got the latest 10th was at Monza.
Okay, so that was the tie.
He lost at
Singapore.
The next race.
Okay. Yep.
Right. I think we have to call this quits.
Yeah, well, we're coming up on an hour, so this is 53 minutes. That's our predictions for the driver lineups. Obviously, we have no idea. It's called silly season for a reason, but
and we're silly.
We are silly. It's going to be a fun year for all that to happen now, because all of our predictions are preseason stuff, right? Checo could dominate this year and retain his seat. Sainz could have. No, I'm not saying dominate Max. I'm saying dominate the rest of the grid, not Max.
The rest of the field, yeah.
Dominate the rest of the field. Show that he is a clear number 2 to the Max. Boom, he gets his seat renewed.
Yeah. And I think
Sainz could have a really, really bad year because he's depressed and he doesn't get re-signed. Alonso could have a really bad year. Albon having a good year, and then boom, so none of these decisions have been made yet. The conversations have started, but it's a lot of proving ground this year. Last year, not so much.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun. It'll be a fun season. Yep.
So I hope we've got someone listening this time. And if not, we'll put a wave when someone comes past and, oh, what's this silly old people on?
We're gonna be like, hey, this is our one viewer. Here's your name. Thank you for watching.
Yeah. So if
But
you
yeah.
watch, thank you for watching.
Yeah. If
Please
not,
give us a thumbs up because we need it.
if not, you know,
And
screw it.
subscribe.
We're gonna do this for years to come.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah, it's
matter.
good for us because we can talk to each other easily.
It doesn't matter if we get the views now. It does. It would be awesome. But at the end of the day, we're gonna do this for so long. It doesn't. It'll build up.
We would be doing this regardless.
Yes,
Not
exactly.
just our chat. And we could broadcast our races though.
Like this while we have the race up.
Or just after the race, do one.
We'll
But
see.
We'll think about that.
We'll see, because that
Anyway.
would make my Sundays long.
Anyway, everybody, if you're watching,
thank you for watching,
and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Bye.